Let's talk about how dirty American buttholes are. And I'm sorry, this is an American problem. So let's talk about it. I want to start off by expressing my love and my gratitude for the invention of toilet paper. Shout out to Joseph Gaetti for inventing toilet paper. Great stuff. Keep it up. Guy's long dead by now, but his toilet papers are not dead. You know what's actually funny is that he had his name engraved on it. His name was written on it. I mean, if I invented the toilet paper, I probably wouldn't put my name on it. I would probably put the name of the person I hate most. And so everyone is wiping their ass with Hitler's name. Let me start this off with a story. When I was in college, I had an American friend. I don't know what we were talking about, but I told my friend that I basically wet my ass with water before I wipe it. And he was like, ew, why would you put water on your butt? That's disgusting. I found that extremely weird because not only does he dry wipe, he judged me for cleaning my butt with water. So I asked him, if you put your hand in shit, would you just wipe it off with napkins? Or would you wash it with water and soap and then water and then more water and then more soap and more water and smell it and wash it and smell it until there's no traces of poop left? And he was like, yes. That's why you wipe with water, because water helps clean. Some people even wipe with soap. Although I wouldn't go that far because I feel like it's gonna burn, but maybe you could use like organic soap or something. I'm down for that. So it's not disgusting. I want to go over the history of how people used to wipe their buttocks over time. None of this is like scientifically proven, or historically proven, but I can imagine that cavemen probably wiped with their hands and then maybe just like rubbed their hands on a mountain or something to get it off of their fingers. That's just my guess. And then obviously some people would wipe with rags or leaves, maybe. So like big leaves or piles of leaves that you could wipe with. I actually did that once. And then I realized that I might have been allergic to that plant that I wiped with. And so it was very itchy for a few hours. Oh, some people used to wipe with sand, also doubles for exfoliation. With the friction, it probably gets some good things out. And you won't believe this next one. There's people that wiped with stones. Stones. Imagine wiping your butt with a stone. I am bleeding just thinking about that. Some people actually did it with seashells. There's some good frictions there. Like, the seashells, it has the ridges, more surface area. I don't know. And then maybe you could use it to scoop. Listen, I wasn't there. It is what it is. Don't judge. And then the Romans would also use, like, they would stick a sponge to the end of a stick. I guess that's smart because you could just like do it from up here with your hand as far away from there as possible. Although I think when the hand is in control, you get more of a feel. Like you could do a more thorough job. But it's not bad too, it's pretty smart. But these were the commoners. If you want to talk about more wealthy people, they would wipe it with wool or hemp or lace because it's nice and soft. So that's like the equivalent of someone who goes to the market now and they buy that 3-ply tissue paper. That's you're basically living the life of a Roman Empire. So if you get that 3-ply, my man, get a crown while you wipe that ass. You're living royally. So you could discard leaves or sand or stones. But when they wiped with wool or lace or hemp, I don't know what they did with it. Like they didn't have washing machines. So do they wash it and reuse it? Or do they throw it and then use a completely different piece? I actually don't know if historians know what they did with these pieces they wiped with. But my guess is that they cleaned it and then reused it. And then maybe did that enough times for it to actually start being disgusting. And they were like, even my primitive ass can't handle this. Maybe. I don't know. So Egyptians were the first people to invent paper-like materials from plants. I think it was called papyrus or something. And the Chinese were the first people to invent the modern paper that we know. So they basically take a bunch of bark and hemp and drags and they mix it with water and they blend it and they create this like mushy thing and then they compress it. they lay it in the sun and dry it for a while, and then it basically becomes paper. And there's actually, if you go to like Etsy, you'll find people who make handmade books or notebooks, and each paper is actually made with that specific process. But although I think what they do now is which is very counterintuitive, but they'll take actual paper, they'll blend it up, and then they'll just create worse paper out of it. Whatever, it's more expensive, obviously, because it's labor intensive. I find it to be very counterintuitive, but that's the legit first process of creating paper was actually like that. So it's pretty cool. The paper is kind of thicker, softer. It was actually invented by this guy called Tsai something, and he was a eunuch in the Han Dynasty. And I guess being a eunuch just gives you time to innovate. And so he invented paper. So that's just a piece of advice. If you want to invent things. So when the paper was invented, of course, the Chinese emperor wanted dibs on this new revelation, and him and his family decided to use this new invention to wipe their They decided to use this new invention to wipe their asses. I wouldn't want to be the guy who invented the paper and then thought it was gonna change the world, revolutionary. And then you just rush into the imperial court and you're like, "My Majesty, I have invented paper." And he's like, "Can I wipe my ass with it though?" And then it becomes the thing that people wipe their ass with. So sucks to be that guy. Eunuch, and his invention gets to be toilet paper. And so the Han Dynasty emperors and the imperial court requested for these papers to be perfumed so that they can wipe their bottoms with it. And so the first people to wipe the way we do now were the Han Dynasty emperors and imperials. But they actually used the perfume ones, which incidentally, actually we can find in the markets as well. But although I've never seen anyone buy perfumed toilet paper. Oh my God, if you buy 3-ply perfumed or scented toilet paper, you would have been a Chinese emperor back in the day, because you are living on some high-end wiping. Good for you. But I'll bet that most of your monthly budget goes to these toilet papers. So when the apocalypse comes and you need to stock up on TP, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to be like, "Why do I have such little food, but so much toilet paper?" It's scented though. Too bad you can't eat it. So you're probably going to be the first to get wiped out. So yeah, they actually didn't use water though. So there were people before them that would use water. So if they lived by a river, they would just wipe directly from over the river, which usually is the same source of water they drink from. So if you were in the village downstream, tough luck, because you were drinking the village upstream's innards. So for future reference, just go upstream. So you're the one shitting in other people's water, not the other way around. So rivers were used to wipe, but for whatever reason, the Chinese dynasty, they didn't use water. They just used toilet paper. Good for them. Great. So if we travel from China to Arabia, they were using water. So funny enough, because they live in the desert, so you'd think you want to save your water for something more useful, like drinking. They were like, "I'd rather starve to death. I'd rather die with a clean butthole," was basically their methodology. They would keep bowls of water in their restrooms, and I don't think they had restrooms. They probably just did it in nature, but they, I actually don't know. I should do research about that. So I don't know where they did their business, but they would have a water bottle or something, not a bottle, maybe back then, a sack of water made of most likely camel skin, and they would use it to wet and wipe, and they didn't dry. So they were just straight up wet. So they would use the water, they would wipe, and then they would put their dress back down. Good for them, because they most likely didn't wear underwear, because they were wearing the overtop garments, the dress looking outfits, which is nice because that means the fabric didn't come in contact with the wet butt. So that actually works out well, and it's very hot, so it's probably going to evaporate real quick. And then we travel upwards to Europe. In the 1600s, they invented the bidet, which is actually a very common invention that then made its way all around the world, but a lot of places use it, probably because of the French colonization of these countries, but also because it's a sick invention. If you've never seen a bidet, look it up. It's like a separate toilet next to the toilet with a faucet. And the only reason you use it is to wash. And it's really clean. You could get very thorough in there. There's plenty of space. You could use soap, any kind of products you want, just a constant stream of water. So that's actually very, very smart. That made its way all around the world, except for the US, apparently. This is why the episode is titled, How Dirty Are American Buttholes? Not how dirty is everyone else's butthole. This is an American butthole problem. And then we go up to, or west to the United States of America, where in New York lived a young man named Joseph Gayetti, something like that. And in the 1800s, I think in 1890, he invented toilet paper, which the initial rendition of it was flat paper on top of each other with his name written on it. Horrible idea, wouldn't recommend. And then a company called Scott, which I think exists until now, they were the ones to then convert it into a roll version that is what we use now. So it's actually a pretty modern invention. In the 1920 was when they created the rolls version and then rolled it out into the markets. People went crazy over it. And I don't know what people did in the US before that, actually. I don't know how people did it in the United States before toilet paper came out. And I don't want to know. The European colonizers brought a lot of things with them. They brought Christianity. They brought sugar cane, or sugar, maybe not sugar cane, but sugar. They brought a lot of crops. They brought guns, like advanced weaponry. And they also brought the smallpox, which happened to kill a lot of people. But they just forgot to bring hygiene. They left that back home. This is why we're here now. This is why I'm making this episode, because we need to bring hygiene back. So obviously the US is like the leading innovator in pretty much everything. Like everything you see in the world, I feel like it started in the United States, or at least the United States made it better and then made it mainstream. Like USA, USA. But for whatever reason, I need to stop saying the word but in this episode. However, for whatever reason, they still use the imperial system. Like, why do we use the imperial measuring system? Fahrenheit? Ounces? Pounds? Miles? Really? No, it doesn't make sense. No one understands it. So let's not. Like, there's literally 3 countries in the world that use the imperial system. 2 of them, countries you've never heard of. But the United States is one of these 3 countries. What? And then, obviously, the second thing is they dry wipe. Like, why are we dry wiping? This is the 21st century in the most advanced country, in my opinion. Could we put a little bit of that military budget for, call it, toilet budget? It would solve so many issues. I think I heard before that the reason the United States gets into so many wars is because their butts are itchy. It could also be for political reasons, but who knows? So that, and then daylight savings. Oh my God. Let's get rid of daylight savings. Please, 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 let's get rid of daylight savings. Every year, twice a year. I'm so confused for like 6 months. I'm confused the entire year. I wear a watch, but I have no idea what time it is. Like it says 3:07, but is it 3 or 4 or is it 2? I have no clue. And this is the reason I'm always late. It's not because I lack punctuality. It's because I don't know if daylight savings has started or ended. Way to get out of my responsibilities for being on time. So because most of the world's citizens are used to wet wiping, a lot of them, when they go to public bathrooms that will typically not have anything other than toilet paper, they will actually bring their own wet wipes. Like my brother walks around with his own wet wipes everywhere, no matter where he goes. Wet wipes are always there because you never know when you need to drop a deuce. Some people will walk around with a bottle of water, like an empty bottle, and then when they go to the bathroom, they'll just fill it up with water. This is like very standard versus for Americans, that's not a problem. So you win there. You win there, Americans. You don't need to walk around with a bottle of butt water or wet wipes. However, other people have to worry about this problem. There's literally people that simply cannot do it outside of their house. They would rather their guts explode than do it somewhere that's not their home. I know people like that. That must be a horrible life. But at least, oh my God, stop saying but. Furthermore, they have very clean buttocks. They can never do pupulas outdoors. They have to go home and drop their pupulas there. Exclusive home pupula. So by the way, if you go to a Middle Eastern person's house, so if a Middle Eastern person moves in somewhere newly and they haven't installed their bidet or their handheld bidets yet, they will always have a water bottle next to the toilet. It's probably like a 2-liter or I don't know what that is in American, in Imperial, like half a gallon, right? They'll just have like a gallon of water next to the toilet. This is not for drinking, y'all. If you go to a Middle Eastern's house, like a housewarming party, and you find water in the bathroom, Do not drink. This is not meant for human consumption. At least not from this hole. Like, it could be consumed, but like back there, okay? Do not drink, please. All sorts of diseases. Or actually, no diseases, because their butts are very clean, so you're actually good to drink that water. What is the purpose of this? I'm not trying to convert anyone to my butt wiping religion or belief or ideology. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to talk about the history of butt wiping and then present all of the options that we have out there in this beautiful human civilization that we've established. This episode is to celebrate the beauty of diversity. So I'm talking about the diversity of that process. So let's go over the varieties and the options that we have. We have the good old hand wiping. No equipment needed, just your God-given tools. And then we have napkins or toilet paper, which everyone knows. And then we have the bidet, which is a separate unit that you sit in, and it has a faucet. And this faucet is actually usually like, it's a flexible head, so you could move it around and aim however you want. The only problem with it is that you have to get up from your toilet onto the bidet. You just have to take that step. And I don't like that journey, but it's a nice invention. And then you have the handheld bidet, which is essentially like a fire hydrant hose right next to your toilet. And this thing is connected directly to the water outlet from the wall. This hose sprays hard. Like, this hose is so strong, the pressure is so strong that I let it go in, like into the guts. And then I squeeze it out like an enema. My farts smell like jasmine flowers. That's TMI. That's TMI. I'm sorry. So very strong, cleans a lot. Only problem is a lot of people are grabbing it with their nasty ass hands and they're spraying. And then because it's so strong, when they're spraying, it's splashing. And then they're putting it back. So that's the con. Not very hygienic. I'm trying to be honest here, just so you know that I'm not being biased. That's the con there. And then you have like a built-in water spout. So some toilets, you look down and there's like a little hole in the toilet and it shoots up water. The problem with it is that you can't really control where it aims. So it depends on you. Like, I don't know who they designed it for, but depending on the way your body's built and where your entrance or your exit is positioned, the water could not actually spray on it. But you still get water in there and it's nice. In Egypt, when I was growing up, we had a water spout, but it wasn't like a hole in the toilet. It was like a little hook, a metal, not even little, like it was a metal hook that looked like this. And I'm about to say a very triggering story, so you guys might want to skip 30 seconds if you don't want to listen to this. When I was a child, I would always look at this hook. So like the top of the toilet seat is here, but the hook is down here. The tip of the hook that sprays the water. And I'd be like, why is it so far down? And then I would sink myself into the toilet until the thing went in. Because I thought that's what it was for. I thought it was supposed to like go. I still see a therapist for that. So that's the third option. I just want to give a shout out to the Japanese innovators who, if you've ever seen these videos where they really sanitize their toilets, and they have like really cool innovations that make the toilets spotless. Like you could live in that toilet. I think Japanese people have reached the pinnacle of toilet innovation. It's wonderful, truly. And then if times are really hard and you only have toilet paper, you could always, if you could reach the faucet, like the sink, you could always just wet the toilet paper and use it. Still better than just dry wiping. That's always an option. We all know the apocalypse is coming. And we all know that hurricanes and emergencies happen where we need to shut down and we need to stock up on certain things and kind of hunk down in our bunkers and wait for the danger to subside. So if you are using water, you could actually more than half your toilet paper consumption, which means when it's time for the zombie apocalypse, when you go and do your shopping, you don't need to spend so much time in the toilet paper aisle fighting with people over toilet paper. Meanwhile, people in the canned food aisle are finishing the food that you and your family need, right? So you could actually go into the toilet paper aisle, in and out real quick, because you're like, bro, I use water. I wet wipe. So then you're not gonna spend time fighting with these toilet paper monsters, and you're just gonna go straight to the canned food aisles, getting what you actually need for you and your family. That's gonna keep you alive and survive. You can get the ammunition, you can get the guns, you can get the food, and you only needed very little amounts of toilet paper because my boy is educated and smart. So that's one thing. Bottom line is, if you wet wipe, you're ready for the apocalypse. You're more prepared for the apocalypse than anyone else is. These other people, good luck eating toilet paper. So thank me later. When the apocalypse comes, just shoot me a DM. You're welcome. The last thing I want to say to end on a positive note is we are very lucky to live in a world, or in a place at least, where we get to wipe our butts with drinkable water. Like the water is very clean. We are very lucky to live in a time where water is so clean and abundant that we could literally wipe with it. So enjoy it while it lasts. Because when we start running out of water and going into wars because of water scarcity, you're going to look back at this time and you're going to be like, man, I wish I knew what it was like to have a clean asshole. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this educational and beneficial, or at the very least entertaining. And let me know what we want to talk about next. So thank you for watching The Social Condom, or listening to The Social Condom. And you have a magnanimous day.